If you could educate yourself a little more, you would know that.
Okay. I will educate myself on the trans Native Americans. Leah Thomas, suddenly switching your gender, competing against women is not fair. I am open to Leah Thomas.
You're say it's not fair.
Don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I give you the answer. It's just obnoxious.
Okay. I love that your solution is separated but equal.
What?
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. Got a great one for you today. We have got Candace Owens doing what she does best on Charlie Kirk's Live Free tour with Turning Point USA, which, by the way, what an incredible job he is doing with this for a 29-year-old man to have had a greater influence on reviving conservatism amongst young people than anybody else. Amazing work, and so let's get into the first clip. And then after this, I'm going to be educating you guys a little bit about progressive history. So let's get into it.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm wondering, there are dozens of words for two-spirited people, people that would now be considered LGBTQ or trans people in the native languages. So I'd like to know how, as these people have existed for thousands of years before you were alive or anyone else in this room was alive, and before anyone even colonized America, if trans people were around then, I'm just wondering why you think it is that trans people are only here now because the media is telling people these things.
Well, do you think it's weird that I graduated with 0 trans people? Do you think, what do you think has contributed to the explosion of transgender people from the time that I was in high school? I'll ask you a question back. If this was just a natural thing, and I don't know what you're talking about with two-spirit people, is this like a Native American tribe, like high, smoking, and talking about your spirit? I'm asking you seriously, because when I think of Native American tribes talking about their spirits, I know that they used to smoke a lot, they used to do drugs, they also were cannibals who used to eat people, so I don't know if we should be taking our cues from cannibals. But
I think
can you explain to me what two-spirit is in the history?
There are people that would now be considered trans people, people that did not feel that they fit
What part, though?
gender.
Native Americans? I'm asking you.
Yes, I'm telling you that not only in one Native American tribe, but in multiple tribes, there were dozens of terms that referred to people that would now be considered trans, and that was hundreds of years ago. So I'm just wondering why you think that people are only trans now because the media is telling them to be.
Well, I told you, because of the proliferation. So you can't just go from having 0% to suddenly 25% of people.
But what I'm saying is that these people were around for thousands of years.
Well, what you're saying is that some Native American tribes had people that would be considered trans today, something that we can't fact check because they're dead.
It's historical knowledge.
It's historical knowledge that there were trans Native Americans.
Yes.
I really don't think that's historical knowledge. But here's what I'll answer. I don't think that there were trans Native Americans.
So if you could educate yourself a little more, you would know that.
Okay. I will educate myself. I will educate myself on the trans Native Americans that were running around America. But here's what I'll say. Native Americans were also cannibals. Did you know that fact? Did you educate yourself on the fact?
All Native Americans were cannibals?
Should we just assume that it's natural for us to be eating humans because Native Americans were cannibals?
I really think that don't apply to what I'm asking at all.
It exactly applies to what you're asking. You're saying that you found a piece of historical knowledge, which I would genuinely love to fact check, that there were trans Native Americans of their trans names. Yes.
Lozen, Datese, Hastinkla, Oshtish, Wehwa.
These were trans Native Americans.
Yes.
Okay. I think what you're saying is that they probably found some that they thought that they had different spirits, because we know that Native Americans were incredibly spiritual. There's no question about that.
Are you not spiritual? You believe in God?
I do believe in God. Yes.
So
that doesn't make me believe in trans people. That doesn't make me believe that you can switch your parts. I don't believe they were performing surgeries. And you can let me know, but I don't believe that in Native American history they were performing surgeries trying to switch their genitals because they thought that they were born in the wrong body.
There were people that felt that they didn't belong in the binary genders that we have.
Okay, so you're talking about somebody in the history of Native American history had a feeling that they were, and now you're saying that they're trans.
I'm just saying, I don't think you're really addressing what I'm asking. I'm saying that
I think I've addressed it like 20 times, and you're just not wanting to hear it because you want to believe that there were trans Native Americans that were chopping off their genitals. They weren't. But I'm, again, happy to educate myself and explore it. Maybe there was a Native American that was chopping off genitals. Happen to have, in my family, a Native American history. Never heard of it, but I'm definitely happy to dive into it. I think what you're probably facing is a rewrite of history where they're taking something that that was just an idea, a spiritual idea, where people, and you see this today, who take ayahuasca, they have a trip, they go back, they say that they realize they were a man in a prior life. This is very common when people take drugs, which the Native Americans did. But again, they weren't chopping their dicks off. So no, this is a different thing that we're dealing with here. Next question.
Brilliant point by this young lady here. And to be honest with you guys, I'm a little bit surprised that Candace Owens isn't aware of the LGBTQIA two-species plus communities that were thriving in ancient Amazonian tribes and other places around the world. Their values are basically identical to the activists that are prancing around San Francisco today. Westerners throughout history on many occasions have gone into the Amazon and discovered remote peoples who they thought were just not wearing many clothes because they live in the Amazon and they're hunter-gatherers. But no, only to realize that they were actually celebrating Pride Month. Furthermore, there is irrefutable evidence that shows just how progressive the natives were. Look at this photo, for example, of this mystical Native American lady, and then this photo of another shaman. Well, what do they both have in common? They both have blue hair. This was an act of defiance where they were actively and bravely trying to tear down the patriarchy by not conforming to Eurocentric beauty standards. Moreover, you want to see just how progressive the ancient world really was? Look no further than ancient Egypt. Evidence suggests that there were huge amounts of BLM activists in ancient Egypt. Just look at all of these ancient photos and hieroglyphs that demonstrate just that. These people are clearly allies to the movement, and they definitely would have posted the black square. These ancients were even said to have raised massive donations from the pharaohs and from the nobility, and they used these funds to build themselves merchant houses and stone mansions for the purposes of having meetings and parties with the group leaders. There is even an Indian man named Amar Bhatti who has raised the fist for 45 years and has never once put his arm down. And this is actually an act of solidarity where he shows his unwavering support to all of the oppressed victims in Los Angeles. Oh, and you thought the ancient progressive narrative stopped there, didn't you? You guys are such bigots.
What the f*** is wrong with you?
Get in your car, dude.
Get in your car!
I'm in my car. That's fair. That's fair.
Take a look at this photo. What do you see? Well, this is actually a historical representation of the ancient Israelites staging a climate change protest, in solidarity, of course, with Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion. You can clearly see here that this man has in fact glued himself to the road to stop emissions and achieve net zero.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
So hopefully Candace does educate herself about this matter, because the evidence to suggest that the ancient world was filled with progressives is almost irrefutable. The evidence is abundant. I mean, all you need to do is just selectively choose random aspects of history and manipulate them to fit into your worldview and your narrative. Simple. Anyways, on to the next question. Guys, if you're enjoying this lesson in progressive history, and if you would like to repent of your white privilege like I have, then there is a way that you can do that. You can actually hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Help this video to get as far and wide as possible so that more people can be aware of their bigotry. Back to the video.
So my question is also about trans people, because it's specifically about trans people competing in sports, because I think everyone here can agree we need to protect women's sports. So recently in Texas, there was a boy who won the girls wrestling state championship. Do you think that he should have been allowed to compete in that division?
I think that a man taking down a woman on a map should warrant a call to the police.
Wonderful.
And should not, of course, be considered a sport. Because
he was actually born female and forced to compete in that division despite being on HRT.
I am so open to transgender people. Like, if they want to have their own division, go for it. I literally, in fact, I would love to watch it. I actually would love to watch it. If you are opting in as a man, as a woman, to having a man take you down on a mat, that is totally fine for me. But what is unacceptable is that we have these divisions. This is for women, this is for men, and you have people that are allowing men to compete in these women's divisions and to obviously dominate, because going back to biology, men, of course, are stronger than women. They are always going to be stronger and faster faster than women.
It's like how Leah Thomas went from getting second place in a race as a man to winning the race.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable, and it's fraudulent, and the people...
Exactly. Going from second to first does not happen naturally. Yeah.
And so I think... going
Leah
from...
Thomas, the swimmer who came in second place in the
as a
men's
man,
Ivy
that's
League
right, yeah.
championships.
Yeah, and then he just switched his
then
gender and suddenly was dominating.
Went from second to first. As someone who competed in athletics in college and high school myself, no one ever goes from second place to first place.
Okay, so if you... Leah Thomas was not in second place when he was competing with men.
He absolutely was. If you look at the 2019 Ivy League championships, I literally...
That is not true.
Look at the statistics. Ivy League championships 2019
that is not true.
men's division in the 100 free. For both the prelims and the finals,
okay, let me put it this way. Let's just... Maybe there was one race that he came in second place
the Ivy League championships is one
okay,
race.
thumbs up. Riley Gaines, who has spoken about how she competed against Leah Thomas and it was not fair. Leah Thomas suddenly switching your gender, competing against women is not fair. I am open to Leah Thomas.
You're going to say it's not fair.
Don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I give you the answer. It's just obnoxious. It really is. I am open to Leah Thomas and every other trans person having their own category at the Olympics and allowing them to compete. That is absolutely fine. Having their own category at high school, universities, at high schools, at universities, everywhere across the country, and being able to compete. What I am not open to are biological men competing against women. If you want evidence that biological men will always defeat women, look no further than the actual Olympics and look at the time differences as it is when men are competing in a sprint versus women competing in a sprint, when men are competing in a throw versus when women are competing in a throw. If you don't want to acknowledge biological reality, I want you to lead the trans Olympics. I want you to be the person that establishes the trans events for people. Thank you for your question. There's more people behind you.
Okay. I love that your solution is separate but equal.
What? So we already have a what? Your solution is separate but equal? What are you talking about? We already have men and women divisions. So is that separate but equal? Next question.
So I don't know about you guys, but when that question started, I was thinking to myself, she does say that she wants to protect women in sports, but there's something not quite right about this one. She looks a little bit bitter. She looks a little bit angry.
Trans people?
I thought there was more to it, and then was proved right as the conversation continued. I have to say though, that was probably one of the worst attempts I've ever seen at a disingenuous gotcha moment to try and like smuggle in a good point by making somebody contradict themselves. The bad thing is that there was no gotcha moment and there was no good point made because Candace never contradicted herself. And she was just saying things like, oh yeah, nobody ever goes from second to first. Okay, well, second to first happens from time to time, but being ranked 462 to being ranked 1 doesn't happen every single day. So there's a more accurate statistic for you. But I mean, who am I to say anything? This lady said that she did athletics in high school, so she knows what she's talking about. But I will say there is a big difference between swimming and shot put. Anyways, big ups to Candace, Charlie, Turning Point USA, doing some fantastic events. If you guys would like to follow me on Telegram and join the conversation, that's going to be in the bio below. We are absolutely having a field day in there. And also, locals, you can catch me there, weekly exclusive content. Other social medias as well. If you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, you can click right here. If you guys would like to watch another video, right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.